Hello there everybody, RegiTime here with I think the 29th episode of my playing 13L Snap on 888, and continuing with along the theme to the last video, we have again 3 topics or themes to discuss whilst we're playing. Those topics today being bankroll, why do I make the same dumb mistakes, and efficient study. I have asked my current students and people on Reddit and a couple of other forums to give me some topics to talk about, the things that trouble them. And we'll get round to those in a moment. We're just going to have a quick look, see what our note says here. 1916, but aggressive. King, Queen, offsuit. I think because we have some nice blockers here, I think we're going to bluff here, or try and bluff at least. So 240. And that sizing is just fine. And we do immediately get the fold. I guess we could have called there, but I think aggressive players are probably going to 3-bet just a little too much in that spot, and probably quite happy to just take the pot down pre-flop rather than get into a post-flop guessing game, and we get 3-bet again here. And let's just take a look at our note. Doesn't really help, but then we're just going to go for the 4-bet here, because usually when people 3-bet versus our under the gun, we're going to 3-bet here too. Wow, that was a quick start. Usually when 3-bet versus under the gun, usually got a stronger range, so there's no reason to slow play. I think I'm just going to check shove on this board, give you a chance to make a bet with an inferior hand, which he doesn't do. So now we're just going to make a bet, hope he calls, and then make another bet. And on table 2, not an ideal flop, we can't represent very much on it, but that said, I think we can definitely have a profitable C-bet spot there, because I think people call 3-bets a little bit too widely and then get themselves lost post-flop. So, excuse me, I think it's pretty much okay to have pretty close to 100% C-bet in position in 3-bet pots, particularly in blind versus blind spots, where people are less inclined to believe you pre-flop, so they make some weak calls, and then we can just make them fold a ton post-flop. I think in higher stakes games, in games with a decent amount of competent players, that strategy might not be as effective, but certainly effective enough in games like 13L Snap. Wow, we're getting this a lot this morning. We haven't got round to our topics yet. I'm looking behind, I'm not seeing anyone who has suspectable squeeze. So if they're not going to squeeze, I may as well make a 3-bet myself. I looked around there and I saw somebody with a short stack, which probably indicates a weaker player, passive player. Then I saw a rock in the big blind, in the small blind, and then an unknown in the big blind. So I didn't expect to be getting 3-bet very often, or squeeze very often. Sorry, so that's where I elected to 3-bet, and I think now just jamming is going to be the best play here. And he had a 4-bet fold range under the gun, which I find a little bit strange. I just presumed there he was usually going to be stacking off. I guess we could have looked at his sizing and maybe concluded from that he wasn't perhaps as strong as his actions were suggesting. I've read somewhere recently that the population, something along the lines of the population, when 4-betting small, tend to have it way less than when they're 4-betting bigger, which does make sense. Can't remember exactly how it was off the top of my head. That was a basic premise. Basic premise was a 2 to 2.5x 4-bet isn't necessarily always indicative of a strong hand, whereas a 3x 4-bet usually is. I mean, it's something as basic as that. It wasn't anything particularly groundbreaking or exciting, but maybe I could have applied that theory there and slow played my hand. Two short stacks right behind. I'm not going to call with the 10-8 suited from the cutoff. So anyway, let's get to the topics. First topic being bankroll. Sorry, I can't remember who it was who asked me about this, but I know it's something that commonly is an issue for micro stakes and nano stakes players. Am I going to call with the queen suited? I am. I think I'm probably in pretty bad shape to the boss score, but I think I'm probably in okay shape if Madman Luke comes along too. I think in position with a very playable hand, I think it's okay to call with the queen suited here. Unfortunately, completely bricked off, so no reason to continue in the hand. Wow, that's a big bet too. Yeah, so bankroll. I'm of the opinion at the micro stakes, if you are financially capable, i.e. you have a job, you have almost an infinite bankroll for the micro stakes. And by micro stakes, I mean anything from 2NL through 10NL. You know, most of us who are semi-competent we can afford to be aggressive with our bankroll management, because it's just not that hard to replenish our bankroll should we have a downswing. So if you have a job and you're playing 5NL, do you need to work off a 50 buy-in bankroll? Of course not. It's ludicrous. It's a nonsensical assertion. You need to be sensible. You need to make sure that you are not just constantly losing in the game, because who wants to do that? But do we need to, say, play 5NL and say, right, I need to get to $750 before I can take a shot at 10 now? No, of course not. Can most players with a job afford to take aggressive shots at 10NL, for example? Yeah, I would say probably can, particularly players from Western Europe, Canada, the US, those types of places. Where I think bankroll management does become important is when you genuinely are playing off a budget. If you're a student, or if you're somebody from a country that's economy isn't as strong as the countries I mentioned, with all due respect, from Eastern Europe, where perhaps $100 is a significantly more meaningful amount of money than it is maybe in London or in Vancouver or wherever it is that you live. And we'll get back to this point in a moment. I'm going to fold my 10 jack. It's not the best of odds for c-betting, but because we have such a lot of equity, I mean, obviously not c-betting would be a mistake. And I think we see the board now and just going to triple off. And we do get the fold. So yeah, bankroll. It's important if you don't have an income that makes it easy for you to replenish, and it's important if you live somewhere where the actual money you're playing for is significant to you. But for most people, having strict bankroll management at 2NL through 10NL, it's just going to, in my opinion, be restrictive to your progress. Because with all due respect, I've met so many players that have decent jobs, that have a decent income, and they're just demotivated by playing 2NL, 5NL. They feel like they have to go through those games to prove themselves, if you will. But because the money's so insignificant to them, it doesn't get their juices flowing. It doesn't inspire them to play the best because they're just not asked. And I think with poker, for you to really push yourself and get the best out of yourself, your wins and losses need to mean something. It needs to feel really good when you win. It needs to feel really quite painful when you lose. Not to the point where you're damaging yourself. But I'm sure you understand the point I mean. If losing 15 buy-ins at 2NL doesn't bother you, if you just couldn't give a shit, how quickly are you going to learn compared to losing, or compared to the downswings that affect you when you may be thinking, fucking hell, really didn't need to reload this week, could have done without that. That's what's going to focus your mind. That's what's going to help cut out the second topic, which is why do I make the same dumb mistakes? And I think a lot of people do make the same dumb mistakes when they're playing, because a lot of the time the money maybe doesn't mean that much to them, or let me just think when I'm going to set mine here against how the heck you pronounce that. Or am I going to 3-bet? 15-10. I'm not really that into 3-betting against 15-10s. So we'll call. And now we're just going to check fold. And never mind. It didn't work out this time. It's not the end of the world. So yeah, why do people make the same dumb mistakes? I think first of all, there's definitely people in my study group that are playing much lower than their financial capabilities, and it's, in my opinion, holding them back somewhat because they just allow curiosity to get the better of them. They know the beat in spots, they know the beat, but it's $2 to find out what's happened to me, and that's what happens. People make the same dumb mistakes because they are financially capable of satisfying their curiosity, so they just satisfy the curiosity instead of just being content to know that the beat and fold and move on. We're not going to set mine here because of Olivia's stack size. Yeah, so instead of just being content to, we all get the feeling, have you been raised on the river, or you've been raised on in any situation, or someone's triple barreled into you, and you know you beat, your instincts that we talked about in the last session, they tell you that you beat. But then you go ahead and call anyway because it's $2, and who gives a fuck about $2? I think that's a significant reason why many players do make the same dumb mistakes. It's because they're overrolled, if you will. I'm going to 3-bet my A6 here. We're going to 4 to a 4-bet. The stack sizes aren't great here for this, but I think A6 suited is just going to be the best hand a lot of the time. We do get 4-bet. Now we're going to fold. We're going to get a decent amount of calls by worse out positions. Sometimes we're going to make you fold hands that we don't mind you folding. Hands that do okay against us. So it's a fine 3-bet. This one didn't work out. Who cares? We move on. So that's one of the reasons why people make the same dumb mistakes. I think there's lots of reasons. I don't think there's one specific reason. Another reason that I think people make it is just tilt. It's just pure full-on tilt. And what that tells you is that you haven't actually fixed that mistake properly. Because what tilt does is tilt exposes, I think Jared Tender talks about it in the mental game of poker. Tilt exposes our biggest weaknesses. It exposes all the things that we thought we learned, but we haven't actually learned yet. Such as when we get raised on the turn and we have one pair hand and we know it's a fold. Beluga theorem states it's a fold. We all pretty much know we should be folding most of our range there. But if you frequently call in those spots when you're tilted, what that means is you haven't actually learned that part of poker to a level where you just unconsciously make the folds. And just to explain that for those of you who aren't aware of unconscious competence, it's basically, in nuts and bolts of it, is that we just know to do some things. And we always know to fold 7-2 off under the gun. We've learned that to the level of unconscious competence. No matter how tilted we are, we still manage to find a fold with 7-2 off under the gun. Because we just know, we absolutely know that that's just the right thing to do. When we're not folding to turn raises with one pair, when we know usually it's the right thing to do, that shows that we haven't learned that to the same level as we've learned to fold 7-2 under any situation, which means we need to go back and do some more work. We need to focus hard on that. And then we'll get back to this point in a moment when I decide whether or not to c-bet my ace king. I think 2 overs and backdoors is enough reason to c-bet. I'm not going to c-bet my 2 5s. I'm just going to check for all the 2 5s. So what that means is when you're making these, if you're making the same mistake regularly, you need to maybe start sessions with a focus on, I'm not going to make that mistake this session, and just keep that as your primary focus until you've actually learned to not replicate that mistake on a regular basis. I mean, once you go through 4 or 5 sessions where you've forced yourself to make folds in spots where in the past you were calling, then you can maybe start to think that we've got this now trained to a level of unconscious competence. Then we're going to 3-bet our king 10 suited here, just to try and claim some isolation against an unknown. That's not that I believe king 10 is the best hand, it's just I prefer to isolate rather than risk getting squeezed or going to a multi-way situation. I'm just going to call here with our king jack suited. This is not a good board for us, but I still think we're going to make a c-bet. Just because 3-bet c-bet in position is just such an effective strategy. I mean, it's very exploitable. But then, do I believe that unknowns in 13L are going to be exploiting that strategy at all? Well, no, I don't. Absolutely not. And I think most of us would agree with that. NL_profit. I know that name. Tempted to squeeze here with my king jack suited. Back to thinking going to. Just again, it's for value against Tinsley. Hopefully, I was hoping NL_profit may get out of the way, and then we get to play a pot with Tinsley, who I think is probably a weak player within the pool. Doesn't work, but we're going to go for c-bet here, and if we get raised, we're just going to shovel it in NL_profit's face. But then we don't get raised. We again another 3-bet c-bet that just works. It works remarkably well. in these games. Might not work so well on Poker Stars, I don't know. But in games where there's lots of unknowns, there's lots of below par regulars and no HUDs, it's definitely, absolutely a winning strategy for sure. Ranks 2 assets. We have a short stacker in the blinds and really short stack. Just going to call here. It's too strong to fold. I'm not in love with it against the decent players under the gun range, but at the same time it is too strong to fold. So why else do people make dumb mistakes? I might be about to make a dumb mistake here because I am feeling that I could be in bad shape here. Rags to asset has raised under the gun and he's made a decently enough size c-bet, which means he probably likes his hand, but I think we need to call once. If he was to bet anything above $4 on the turn here, I would just fold. And he's bombed it. I think this is a very, very easy fold. We talked about earlier about bet sizing. Well, not so much about bet sizing, but there's more in 4-bet pots. But I think it stands as well here. Most regulars have some, myself included, some exploitable bet size tells. And I think it would be a mistake there to go paying off his $5 bet. I think if he's weak there, he can check or make a block size bet. When he bets $5, I just think he's supremely confident in his hand, and I don't want to be paying off versus that. And I'm going to fold the threes here because of FCB's stack size. And that was a dumb mistake I used to make in the past. I used to have top pair and not fold it irrespective of players' bet sizes. Whereas now it's I may still make some mistakes against people's bets, against people's ranges when they make smaller bets, but we can afford to make more mistakes when people are betting smaller. It's a big mistake there to pay off $5, in my opinion. It wouldn't be a big mistake to pay off had he bet, say, $2.40 or something like that. I think there's a significant difference. And that's something that took me quite a long time to get my head around and to learn. And I'm sure there's some dumb mistakes you guys are still making. And you need to figure out what it is, what's motivating you to continually repeat the mistakes. Let's leave our ace queen here. What is it in you that's making you continue to make the same mistakes? Why aren't you learning from it? What is it? What's happening in your life? What's happening in your poker life? Is it because you were overrolled and you just don't care? Is it because you don't actually understand the spots that you're being put in? If that's the case, it's a technical issue. Is it a mental game issue? You need to figure it out. If you can't figure it out yourself, you need to find somebody to help you figure it out. And put myself in a pretty shitty spot here with this. He made a good size in there. I like his sizing. Probably just going to fold. I think getting ace queen suited in pre-flop. In some spots it's not terrible. I think cut off versus big blind, it wouldn't be great. I don't think versus a tightish tags range. I'm not even sure a 3-bet sack rate there. I think it's probably fine. But when you're playing against people who you don't expect to call as much, against the better regulars, the ones that are probably more likely to have a 4-bet or fold strategy, I think I maybe made a small mistake there. Autopiloted and 3-bet my hand against probably one of the better regulars, which is probably a small mistake. I'm not going to beat myself up over it. I'm making a video sometimes. As much as I'm wanting to pay attention, if I'm talking about something else, we can just make an autopilot mistake. And maybe had I seen that was one of the better regulars, maybe I wouldn't have made the 3-bet, but never mind. Really, it's not the end of the world. What a waste of top set. Never mind. So yeah, when it comes to regular mistakes you're making, it's not a cop out on why on my answer why are you always making it, because it's a very personal thing. I used to make the same dumb mistakes because I was a tilt monkey. I was a real fucking tilt monkey. And as a tilt monkey, it was overrolled, and I didn't fucking care that I knew it was beat. I didn't give a shit. I wanted to see what had happened to me. And I didn't care that it was costing me $15 to find out, because I could afford the $15, and it held me back significantly. When Ang Kev bets in here on this board into two people, and he's a rock, I'm not going to race because I don't think we have. Well, that's a shame. That is damned unfortunate that C Sicko FT has done this to us, because I didn't think we had an awful lot of fold equity against Ang Kev, which is why I didn't race myself. Given the speed he folded, we probably had more fold equity than I thought. And now it's just a maths question. Now we're getting the correct price to call our money off, and let's just have a quick look. We need to call nearly 12 to win 18. So we're getting what, 1.5 to 1. And no, we're quite simply not getting the right price, especially if this character has some kind of draw that maybe blocks some of our outs, or makes some of our outs dirty. I think it's just a fold. So I'm a little bit disappointed with how that hand played out, but never mind. So the last topic is efficient study. This is something that came up yesterday when I was having a discussion with somebody from my study group. And he asked me how I study. And my answer was quite candid, and it's kind of ironic in a way. Although I make videos, I very, very rarely watch training videos anymore. I don't have any subscriptions to any training site. And that's because now, not because I'm arrogant or I believe there's nothing I can learn. There's still plenty I can learn, and tons that I need to learn if I wanted to go and play 100 nil, 200 nil. I would get my ass kicked in 100/200 nil games, unquestionably. I'd be the mark at the table. I'd be the losing player. But I'm not playing those games. I don't need to learn how to beat those games because I'm just not playing them. And I think this is one of the big problems that lots of players have, is that they study, they have a good work ethic, they have a fantastic work ethic, but their studying is completely ineffective. They'll be watching mid-stakes and high-stakes videos. We'll get back to this in just a moment. Ivy Master. Ace Queen's very likely to be the best hand here against somebody with the purple tag. I'm going to float if he c-bets his flop. It's a very, very dry board. Ivy Master is definitely one of the more aggressive players in these games. Somewhat tempted. No. Yeah, he's going to go with the call. And if we get double barreled, well, fair play to him. I think he's going to c-bet almost an entire range on like king or low dry. It's just such an easy c-bet for him. Misdodge. I am playing on a Sunday morning. We are starting to find ourselves in a couple of tough spots. I know nothing about misdodge. Again, we're just going to call. This is the problems that playing at times where the games aren't great does present us. If you're playing at times and in games where the player pool isn't perhaps so well populated with enough passive players, and we're in games where lots of aggressive players. We're going to be finding ourselves in these spots more and more, like the spot with the Ace Queen against Ivy Master, and the spot here against Mist Dodge. And people are just going to be better at applying pressure to us. And again, I'm just going to respect the aggression and make an irritated fold. This is why I don't play very often at this time, because these games have definitely been harder now than they were when I was playing last night, when I was playing earlier in the week in that later times. I'm making the video now just because, or basically because it's convenient to me to make the video now. It isn't the time I would typically play. It's 12:15 on a Sunday. It's not a time I would typically play poker. Wow, did he just fold? Did I flop top 2 there and just have somebody fold to me? Open fold. Be quite horrifying. Yes, we did. I'm going to call here with our 3s. And we're probably never good, but it's 30 cents and we might be good if we hit the turn. Now we're going to fold. So yeah, I mean, these games, the quality absolutely does vary. I'm not sure if that's true of the Snap equivalent, of the Zoom equivalents, but the game quality varies significantly different between hours of the day, and it's usually very much in line with how many UK players are on. With all due respect to my countrymen, some of the worst poker players in the world, and the higher proportion of UK players that's on playing, generally the better the games are. And right now, there aren't that many UK players on, but there are an awful lot of Eastern European players on. It's not the best time to play. The King's not a great card because now we either lose or we chop. We either lose to a 10, which we're always losing to, or we're going to chop with all these ace-x. Not really an awful lot of point in betting for value. I'm not going to get into fold an ace. Hard to get value from anything else, so it's just a disappointing run out. Yep, so let's finish the point on efficient study. If you're playing 2NL, 5NL, 10NL, what is the point in watching somebody playing mid-stakes and then trying to apply the things they're doing to your games? They're just completely different. If the videos you were watching, if the players you were watching the videos were making a 2NL video, their play would be significantly different to the play that they're making in a 400 now video, a 500 Zoom video, or a 200 Zoom video. Then people come and do it, and I saw player XYZ doing this. So I tried to do it. It's just nonsense. We shouldn't be trying these things. By all means, watch these videos to educate yourself to how stronger players at higher limits play. By all means, watch them with a view to educating yourself for moving up. If you're a 100 now player, of course, watch 200 now videos. But that's what you aspire to go and play. If you're a 200 now video, maybe watch some high stakes videos, because that's where you aspire to go and play. But if you're a 500 player watching a 500 Zoom video, yeah, you're going to be entertained while you watch it. But you're not going to learn that much that's applicable to your games. You'll learn something, but it's not the most efficient use of your time. Also, people watch videos and they don't pay attention to them. They think, oh, I can just study 5 hours a week, so I watch 5 videos. But they're watching the 5 videos, but how much is actually going in? When I used to watch videos, I would watch and then I would take notes while I was watching them. I would rewind back. If something didn't go in, I would rewind the video back and I would listen to it again. I would ask the instructor questions if I didn't understand what he said. And I would make the absolute most of it. But I know for a fact lots of players just watch a video, they watch it once while they're having some food or while they're doing something else, and they're not actually taking everything in that they're supposed to be taking in, and it's just really quite lazy and quite casual. Now, my videos are aimed at recreational players who want to play poker for. We have a pair and a double cut shot here. Let me just think. We'll finish the point off. So we're getting nearly 3-1, and we've got probably, I would hope, 2 sevens, 3 sixes, 10 or 11 outs. We're not getting the right price, and he doesn't have a stack. If he had a full stack here, I think I would call, but because our implied odds are really quite bad, I'm not going to continue. So yeah, when people they studied, sorry, missed my train of thought there. So recreational players who just want to play and they don't have that much time to study, how can you study? Because you probably need to. We can't just never study. We're not going to get better if we do that. But I also fully appreciate that recreational players don't want to. If you're only playing poker, if you only have 15 hours a week for poker, why on earth would you want to put 5 hours into study? Wow. I'm just going to jam here. I know nothing about Okey Pokey, but it's just such a typical spot. Light 3-bet, light cold 4-bet. Just too likely to have the best hand. If Okey Pokey or we'd rather them have like a premium hand, it's just tough shit for us. And he does. Well, whatever. There's not much you're going to be able to do about that. I just don't know Okey Pokey from Adam. For all I know, he could be a major whale. He could just be a complete nit. This is the downside of Snap. We have to make some population reads. Now that I know that he called 4-bets really small with aces, maybe that's something I would avoid in future. This character again. And we have to defend the King Queen versus most players cut off opens, but I'm less excited to do it against a nit than I am against the regular. So yeah, it's not been the best of sessions. We've undoubtedly lost money. It's been in a shitty spot, but it's because there's been just not many fish around. And when there's not many fish around, we shouldn't really be around either. But we're around because, like I said, we're making a video because it was convenient for me to make the video at this time. It cost me money to do it, whatever. Not the end of the world. So yeah, with your study, if you are a recreational player and you don't have time to study, you still need to do it somehow. But I would say your time best spent studying is probably best spent talking to peers, developing your poker contact list. Then just like finding Skype groups to join, contributing to message boards, that type of thing, being part of the community. That's probably going to be better for you than maybe watching some videos on your own, maybe not understanding what you're listening to, and watching, maybe misunderstanding it, and then going ahead and misapplying some concepts that you think you've learned. All those kinds of things. Anyways, if you're part of a community, if you go along and find yourself some people you respect who you can talk poker with, you're probably going to find yourself learning at a faster rate and in a more enjoyable, less lonely manner too. Poker is a really lonely pursuit. I meet so many people who, when they come to me, they've only got 1 or 2 poker contacts. And just the very fact that they've found me and they've found my Skype group really improves them, just because now they have people to talk poker with. And that in itself can be a huge, huge learning tool. So yeah, my advice to people, recreational players specifically, and I'm going to go back and check this character here. Yeah, I've got a feeling my rock type may need updating, because all of a sudden this character open a lot this session. I'm probably going to get 4-bet now. It'd be pretty much in keeping with the theme of the rest of the video. And we get called. We're going to continue with our C-bet, 3-bet, sorry, 3-bet C-bet strategy. We have flopped a pair at least this time, so if we do get called, we have somewhat more equity. When we get check called here, I'm going to squarely put him on a jack or some kind of pocket pair between 7s and jacks, like 8s, 9s, 10s, that type of thing. I'm not going to try and take him off them. And we flop pretty bad. So overall, it's been a pretty shitty session. These happen though, and this is why game selection is so important. It's why I don't typically play that much speed poker anymore. There's just such a small window when games are really quite good. It's just not really worth my effort. Most of the time, I'm better finding myself playing on Sky, because I'd just much rather play in games where I am very confident in my edge. I mean, I have an edge in 30 now, but sometimes, like today, in the games right now, it's much smaller. There's much more play in my edge. Sometimes I could be playing these games and the pools are good, and I maybe could be a 6 or 8 or even 10 big blind winner. And there's other times like now where I'm playing them and I think maybe it's a 2 big blind winner. Whereas when I play on Sky and I game select, I'm very confident that my win rate or expected win rate is much more consistent and much more constant. That's something else that you might want to consider. And we're going to finish the video on these 2 jacks in the hole. Hopefully we won't lose another sizable pot. Not that great that Senegal was called. Don't know anything about him. I actually now just hope that Sal shovels all the money in and we can just shovel all our money in too and say fuck it, but he didn't do that. And now we're in a pretty crummy spot. I mean, it's just really hard for anyone to have a queen, so I'm going to make a bet and kind of not hope everyone folds, but at the same time, I mean, it's just a really, really crummy spot right now. I think we have to see bet there. We can't just go around check folding or check calling against Senegal Krusk. But he has called our 3-bet, then he just called the flop again. And now it's just a matter of, do I want to check and then maybe hope he checks down a hand like 2 9s, 2 8s, 2 10s. Don't think we can bet anymore. Betting surrenders. I think I'm probably just going to check fold. I don't know. I have no idea about this Senegal character. Maybe he's a player that just like starts randomly betting 2 10s here. But no, I'm just going to fold. I'm really quite irritated by this session now. Nothing's gone right, and I'm quite disappointed that I started it, but never mind. Never mind. Yeah, so there you've seen how I deal with problems. I deal with them as badly as you do sometimes. I get really quite pissed off. I'm not really sure how to end the video on a positive note, because things did kind of go bad for us that video, but it happens, and there's no point just showing videos where they win all the time. You know, it doesn't really show a true reflection of anyone's poker life. So I hope you've got something from the video. I hope you haven't taken too much pleasure in my misery. And yeah, we're back soon with another video, probably on Sky. I would say. I think we've made enough snap videos for the time being. Probably going to go back and make some on Sky. But thanks for watching, and yeah, take care, and we'll catch up again soon. Bye for now.